Clayton Kershaw reached out to him, and I believe that they're both high school buddies. They play football together. I think Clayton Kershaw said, wouldn't this be great? I have an opportunity to win a championship in L.A., and you will have an opportunity to win a championship with the Rams in L.A., the new reconciled stadium over there. I think Matthew Stafford just wanted to come home, play in front of his family and friends, and I think, yes, I think he's always been elite. I think he's a top 7-8 quarterback in the league. This year, I would say he's a top 5. To me, he's a sensational quarterback with an ability, arm strength, and all the stuff, and he stayed healthy this year, which has been a problem for him year in and year out. So my answer to you, I've always thought Matthew Stafford is elite. Ask anybody here that's sitting on this panel over here. I've always loved Matthew Stafford.
He's defended Matthew Stafford more than a lot of people. I would say, to answer your question, I would kind of compare his career trajectory overall with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan always had the great receiving cores and then the great individual receiver. Now, Calvin Johnson's obviously better all time than Julio Jones is, but it's still kind of very similar.
Not really.
Still kind of very similar.
Very close.
Still kind of very similar. Where they also had Roy Williams at certain points. Then even after Calvin Johnson retired, they had some good receivers at that point. And Matt Ryan also had Roddy White and Harry Douglas and guys like that too that were very good. So I kind of compare that. But if Matthew Stafford has the longevity with the Rams that you saw from him this season, whereas Matt Ryan really hasn't had that with Atlanta the last 2 years, then maybe he could end up surpassing them. I think both will end up. I think both should be Hall of Famers.
They're definitely Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and I think they're kind of similar on that cusp. And the other thing too is they're both they haven't really reached, like, the thing that's held them back is, like, certain seasons they were down, like, they're kind of streaky year to year type thing, and I think that's what held them back from being that next level. But yes, they're both Hall of Famers. I would consider them both borderline elite as well.
Yeah.
I would agree with both these fine gentlemen. I think Matt Stafford's always been elite. The thing that made Matt Stafford special to me was when he dislocated his shoulder, told his coach, no, you need me to throw the ball, I'll go out there and throw the ball, and then threw a game-winning touchdown. Like that's special. That's not in a lot of guys' DNA. I'm sure you just mentioned receivers faking injuries to get off the field for free agency, and this guy was out there trying to earn the respect of his teammates. So that, to me, right after that story, I was like, all right, this guy's going to be special. It's hard to do that in Detroit.
Carl, I said Roy Williams, by the way, not Mike Williams.
And also, just so everybody knows, before Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen came into the league, ask anybody who had the best arm in football. I think a lot of people will tell you Matthew Stafford had the best arm in football. So, I mean, it's not something that was been hidden by anybody that Matthew Stafford was an elite quarterback. I just think he didn't get the respect because he played for Detroit, and Detroit is not a good place to play, and it's been a hidden tundra when it comes to players that go there. So, yes, I absolutely, Brandon. I think he is an elite quarterback. He will be a Hall of Famer when all said and done. Matthew Stafford has a chance to win a Super Bowl this year, and if he knocks off San Francisco, I really believe. I don't care what anybody says. We just had, what's his name again? Associated Press MVP voter, ESPN NFL analyst Aaron Schatz.
Yeah, that was a fantastic interview. Nice work.
And he was great too. And he went back and forth with me. He thinks the 49ers are going. I don't know where he sees it. I know the 49ers won both games this year, but it's very hard for one team to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, especially as good as the Rams.
Yeah, so, and I get it. But I'm picking the Rams because Odell's up and running in the system. So I think it's a different team.
Yes.
Not I think it is a different team. And getting closer, they can taste it. In my mind, I imagine Vaughn being a bigger influence in that locker room because he is just so positive and it's just infectious. His charisma, and then his talent on the field, it's infectious. So I think there's other components to this next game other than the analytics, other than the history, which is all important, very important.
Of course.
But I think this weekend's more emotional picks for me.
Of course.
Go with your heart. Go with your heart. You're not alone. Go with your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Go with your heart.
I'm not going with my heart and my checkbook. I'm just going with my heart.
Go with the team you play with longer.
Sports betting is now illegal.
Being I'm from Kansas City, I'm picking the Chiefs. But but I like the Rams just because I like the story.
I want to ask you something as well, because you played for both teams in the 49ers and the Rams. This is something that bothered me in particular, and you played with them when they were in St. Louis. And even before the game, because they knew the 49ers won already. So if the Rams won, obviously they were going to host it. The thing they were doing with the tickets, they were limiting it only to Southern California that could buy them. That was something that really bothered me. And as someone that you got to experience the 49ers fan culture at Candlestick Park, and also got to experience, granted only for a little bit, with the Rams when they were in St. Louis, is this something that is justified like that and something that should happen? And is something like LA, moving to LA the way they did, shouldn't have happened with the way the city of St. Louis was happening? What was your experiences like with that?
Oh, bro, there's so much to unpack there. I know. The unceremonious exit out of St. Louis, it's like they rolled it up like a circus carnival and just left in the middle of the night. But obviously St. Louis is just not an environment to support a good National Football League team. But I think the bigger story here is Stan Kroenke. I think he's just a spectacular businessman. Mm-hmm. And just the exit out of there, the moving pieces to get to LA, crowded market, couple teams, then to get a stadium, a place to house the team. But I think he's more of a remarkable story because when you look at St. Louis, or if you look at the Denver Nuggets stadium,
right,
the team is just another act. It's not the main event. Between the concerts, they'll run the Nuggets, they'll run the Avalanche, they'll pack that ice up, throw the wood down, and play a game in the same day. They are not. He is about generating money and revenue, and he's got the schemes to do it. And that's how I view what is going on in LA with that stadium, with those tickets, and what's going on with the Super Bowl. It's a money scheme. He's good at it. He's going to work the system, and he's going to make that money.
Brandon, I have kind of two questions here. One's going to be I don't know if you'll answer one, but so obviously you said you went back to school for your MBA, you said, correct? And now you're going back as well? So
I went back for my undergraduate, and now I'm on the last year of my master's in business. Yep.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your plans are after football? A lot of NFL players, they have a very difficult time sometimes either realizing it's over or when it is over. Like you said, you find out who you really are. So a lot of guys take a year or two or three. Some guys never figure it out, and it's kind of a sad story when that does happen. So how did you figure out going back to school something you wanted to do?
Well, there was a promise I made to my parents when I picked the University of Illinois over all the other schools that I was going to follow through. And so going back to get my undergraduate, that was an easy one. It's because I said I was going to do it. So that's why I needed to do that. As far as the NBA, for me, it's the best part about being a professional athlete is the access. The sheiks want to hang out, the elected officials want to hang out, the CEOs, the billionaires, the actresses. People want to be around excellence and greatness. So the access is the amazing part. And so what I was finding was when I was being granted this access, I didn't have much to provide. I was just there. And so I started saying to myself, it's like, well, I need to increase my business acumen so I can understand how to speak the language so that I can feel comfortable investing in or starting something. And so that's what the MBA is about. And so it's more understanding business, understanding the way it works on a global level, and then being able to apply my talent and experience in the business setting to where I can be successful.
Well, Brandon, before we let you go, because this is the last question for us. What? Well,
no, there's an emotional question to ask here, obviously.
What's the emotional question?
Yeah, I can stay on.
His last year in Denver, I believe, was Demaryius Thomas's rookie year in Denver. And obviously in sports, there are just gut-wrenching like Kobe was a few years ago in the NBA. Do you have a story of Demaryius Thomas? Everyone says he was a lovable guy. Do you have a story you'd like to share about Demaryius?
Look, I lost a handful of teammates in the National Football League. Thomas Herron in San Francisco, he died in the locker room after a 2-minute drive in a preseason game in San Francisco. Sean Taylor was murdered in my time
That's right.
with the Washington football team. Kenny McKinley committed suicide when I was with the Denver Broncos. And then obviously, just a equally traumatic event was just the murders that Aaron Hernandez committed while as an active player. And so it's, and then Demaryius, obviously we weren't, it didn't happen as an active player, but it's all tragic. It's all sad when, just getting back to your earlier question, Tyler, about, finding purpose. And then, at the end of our careers, like, how do we take care of ourselves mentally? Who's looking out for one another? When we exit the locker room and we can maintain that brotherhood where we can speak honestly about our situations and what we're planning, and we can celebrate one another and support one another post NFL when all the lights are gone and all the attention's faded away. So, I just think that, every time, and also David Patton just passed away in the motorcycle accident, a couple months ago, and we played together on the Washington football team. So it's just more of a story. It's like, as we get older, our friends and our loved ones, are leaving this earth, and then we start to question, what is our purpose and what are we doing with ourselves, and is it even worth it, And so I think that, I had a really good foundation with my mother and my father on plans on how to be humble, how to move forward in this world ethically, with virtue. And so I'm following that path. I'm lending myself to philanthropic endeavors in order to inspire and motivate young people, that someone with influence or celebrity looks at them and cares for them, and that they have a place in this world too. I also look at my influence in my sphere of my friends and my family, and how I can inspire them by following that, virtuous path and ethical path, right? Like that's the plan. And so whoever can latch onto that, let's do it. Let's go for the ride. Thanks for inspiring me, and I'll continue to inspire others. But, that's my plan, and that's what I'm sticking to, post NFL.
That's a good final answer to our interview. I really, really appreciate everything and all the time that you gave us, 47 minutes. We really appreciate everything that you've done, and we would love to get you on again. I think a lot of people will be inspired by this interview, because I think a lot of things about you, Brandon, is you're pretty straightforward, you're honest, and you're very, very well respectable on your, just in a conversation on really expressing what you did in your career and who you are as a person. So we really appreciate all that. Tell the fans how they can find you on social media.
You can find me on social media, on Twitter at Mr. B. Lloyd. You can catch me online at MrBLloyd.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can reach out to me about high school apprenticeships. But thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate being on the show.
Well, we would love to get you on. Again, my producer over here will definitely reach out to you. We'll follow you on your social media, Twitter. You follow us and follow me. I'd love to continue our conversation. You're a great person, Brandon. We really appreciate your time. And by the way, a lot of our guests over here say that you were one of Tom Brady's favorites. So that's a pretty That's with Tom Brady being in the league so long and being compared as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. That's something very special to know that a player of that magnitude really respects you like that. So thank you, Brandon. One of the best interviews we've ever had, and we've been around for a long time. So thank you.
That's all good and dandy. I just followed you on Twitter. Feel free to follow me back.
You got it.